It's now time for your favorite in-depth basketball show with the myths, the legends, Nard Dogg and Raindrops. Goulet!
Welcome to another episode of Full Court Press. I'm Justin Raindrops Goulet, as always joined by the Nard Dogg himself, Mr. David Bernardi. How you doing, man?
I'm doing swell, sir. How you doing?
I am not too bad. I'm looking forward for another episode of FCP.
Not too bad?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm going with not too bad.
Why the bad in there?
Fair enough. I'm doing extremely well, Nard Dogg. Is that better?
Yeah, you are.
Excellent. All right, let's get this show on the road. Right off the bat, straight out of the gate, we need to dedicate this episode to one of the all-time best coaches in the history of basketball, Mr. Flip Saunders. As of this recording, Flip passed away yesterday at the age of 60 from Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's very sad news. You were the one that you told me about it, Nard Dogg, and I knew that he was battling the disease, but it's just something that it kind of hits the entire basketball community, because here's a guy who has had such a huge influence on the game, and particularly huge influence on Kevin Garnett, one of the best basketball players of all time. So what are your thoughts on Flip Saunders?
Yeah, an absolute legend in the basketball world. Like, he was Kevin Garnett's first NBA coach. Garnett coming out of high school in 1995 and basically coached him for about 10 years. So it hit Garnett really hard, as we saw in that Facebook post that Garnett made. Yeah,
it's one of the saddest pictures, especially as a fan of basketball and knowing their relationship, the history of their time together.
Yeah, the picture is just him sitting there at in Flip Saunders' parking space. It broke my heart, to be honest.
Yeah, it was very sad, and it's Kevin Garnett, who's one of the most crazy, erratic, dynamic basketball players of all time. Kevin Garnett's one of those players in history that you can tell what emotions he was feeling during the game. A very emotional player.
And you saw all over Twitter and everywhere, every NBA player, coach, whatever, they just gave their respect because of how awesome of a guy this guy was. Even Amir Johnson. That was Amir Johnson's first coach coming out of high school for Detroit in 2005. He was pretty shook by that. You could go on LeBron James. John Wall's first coach in the NBA was Flip Saunders.
Yeah, so just a huge influence on some of those names that you listed right there. Those are some of the top players in the NBA today, and some of the top players in basketball history, with like LeBron and Kevin Garnett.
We even saw Raptors such as Lowry and DeRozan give their respect.
Definitely
it hit home for the NBA family.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely a huge loss around the entire league and just the entire basketball community. And just you look at his career, he never led a team to a championship, but just his influence on the game and his influence on the teams that he coached were huge, and his influence on those players like Kevin Garnett, it's just unbelievable. And I saw an article that accompanied the picture that Kevin Garnett posted, and it had a line that said, this image shows that although Kevin Garnett's coach right now, and of course it may not be Flip Saunders, but it shows that his coach will always be Flip Saunders. And it's just something, especially when you've played the game of basketball, or any sport for that matter, you have that coach that really guides you in the game, and whatever they teach you within the game that helps make you a better person off the court. And I definitely have a coach like that, who is a huge influence on my sports life as well as my personal life. So it's tough. It's a tough loss for sure.
Even the number one overall pick this year, Karl Anthony Towns, he only spent a few months with Saunders, and he posted a really awesome tribute to Saunders on Instagram. And even Wiggins, our Canadian boy, he gave out a tribute too.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see the amount of respect that Flip Saunders earned with his incredible career. You look at his track record: 654 wins and 594 losses. It's great. He did a lot of good things for the teams that he coached.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so definitely a huge influence, and he's one of those names that no one's going to forget. And I think Flip Saunders, I think he's got he's going to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame one of these days eventually.
100%.
Yeah, he has to be, just for, like, as I mentioned, he never won a championship, but just the influence he had on the game and the teams that he coached and the players that he coached, just huge. A major influence, a measurable influence on the game of basketball. So this episode of Full Court Press dedicated to Mr. Philip Daniel Saunders, a.k.a. Flip. You know, we miss you, and we thank you for all the amazing memories.
Anyways, off to our NBA season preview.
Yeah, moving on, taking care of business, onto other matters. NBA season preview. It's going to be a good one. This draft class was interesting. It's going to be neat to see how Karl Anthony Towns does in the league.
Jahlil
Okafor.
D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, there's a lot of players to watch that got drafted this year. It's going to be a fun season, and from the Canadian standpoint, the Toronto Raptors have a lot to prove after their terrible showing. Yeah,
they got way too much to prove.
Yeah, they've got a lot on their plates. There's a huge weight on their shoulders to make up for the playoffs.
Everyone pretty much is writing them off already. Even if they win the Atlantic Division, I don't know. Where do they go from there?
Yeah, what do you think? Let's take a look at the teams throughout the league. What do you?
Let's take a look at the Atlantic Division. We saw Boston Celtics they were awesome last season when they made all those trades and they got into the postseason. They even they got swept by the Cavs, but they played the Cavs really well in that first round.
Although they got swept, I say that the Boston Celtics played much better than the Raptors, who also got swept.
Oh, and we all saw how that sweep went.
Oh, yeah.
That sweep, I mean.
Yeah.
Fun blowouts.
Big time. That's for sure. I think the Celtics are going to do pretty well this year, especially since they picked up now former Raptor Amir Johnson. Plus, they got David Lee.
And they got a nice rookie in Rozier. They'll do well. It's really tough. You see the Knicks. The Knicks will be shit. Brooklyn will be average like they always are, and Philly, they're just a tank nation team. Jahlil Okafor is gonna rip it up, but that's about it. And then, Boston's the only challenge.
I think what we're looking at, final Atlantic Division standings, the Raptors are going to win the Atlantic Division again. Celtics are going to make it tough, but I think the Raptors are still going to pull away and win the Atlantic Division title. I'm going
to say the Raptors finish with another franchise record with 50 wins.
Finally, they make it to that 5-0 mark. Fingers crossed.
It only took, 21 years?
Hey,
it will take 21 years?
Hey, better late than never, Nard Dogg. I'm thinking, so you look at the Atlantic Division, my final predictions for the Atlantic Division standings are Toronto Raptors, Boston Celtics, Brooklyn Nets. Just as a personal preference, Philadelphia 76ers, then the New York Knicks. But I think realistically, the Knicks will probably beat the 76ers in the standings.
You never know with the Brooklyn Nets because they got Bargnani, and Bargnani could turn out to be the next Dirk Nowitzki. Oh wait, that was 10 years ago.
Wow, 10 years ago. I never thought about that. You actually just kind of blew my mind there.
9 years, but we're getting there.
We're getting there. Yeah, he was drafted first overall in 2006.
Yes.
2006. So, yeah, this is going to be his 10th season.
Interesting.
Yeah, craziness.
You look at the rest of the East. You see Chicago's probably gonna. I don't know. Chicago's gonna. They're not gonna overtake Cleveland in that Central.
I don't think so. No, I think Cleveland's got the Central Division. The Bulls are going to come in second place, and then you know what? I'm going out on a limb and putting the Bucks in third.
Oh, the Bucks, they improved greatly, and they'll have Jabari Parker back.
Yeah, I'm putting the Bucks in. I don't think the Bucks are gonna. They're gonna give the Bulls a challenge, but I think the Bulls are still gonna pull away and finish in second place in the Central.
And yeah, the Bulls have a really good coach. They lost Thibodeau, but they gained Fred Hoiberg, who's awesome at Iowa State. And he's a local Chicago boy. He's played for the Bulls. I'm not sure if he's from Chicago,
But he's got that connection playing for the team, so that always
but
brings a little something extra to the table.
you said Milwaukee, and Milwaukee also got Earl Monroe from Detroit. And he's a solid starting power forward.
Fair enough. Yeah, very true. So do you think that
I rip on Vasquez, but he could potentially actually play good for a team like the Bucks.
I think he could fit in well, and I like Gravis Vasquez. Obviously, he had his. There's pros and cons to every player, but I agree. I think he's going to fit well in the Milwaukee Bucks system. Do you think the Bucks can beat the Bulls?
It's gonna be interesting. I don't really. I just think the Bulls have more experience to get her done.
To get it that final push, and then
You look at the Southeast and Washington. They're probably gonna win that division. I'd say so.
I'd
You think of Miami?
I'd go just quick glance. I'd go Washington Wizards, Atlanta Hawks, Miami Heat, maybe a little surprising. Hornets, then the Magic.
Hornets just got Jeremy Lin, Linsanity.
That's true. Bringing the Linsanity. Wow.
Jordan recently said that's his biggest acquisition. I don't know how he's leaving out Nicholas Batum when that guy's a lot better.
I agree wholeheartedly with that statement.
And you got Orlando. They could potentially improve this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they got an 8th place spot or something like that.
It would be nice to see the Magic back in the playoffs.
And then you got Miami. You got Chris Bosh. He's going to be fully healthy. Like
I think Miami could has the potential to tear it up. Chris Bosh is going to do well if he's back to full health, because the Miami Heat right now, I don't know if it's crazy to say, but I'd say that the Miami Heat are Chris Bosh. It's Chris Bosh's team.
Oh, for sure. He's not injury prone like Mr. Wade.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I hope the Heat do well. Like, I know, obviously, when they had LeBron, they were the villains of the league, but I don't mind the Heat that much now. And I've always supported Chris Bosh, even when he initially went to Miami. I've always liked Chris Bosh.
Yeah, I never disliked the Heat either. Dwayne Wade's one of my favorite players. I even have his jersey.
Yeah, same. And even when they had the big three, LeBron James is one of my favorite players of all time. I've always been a fan of Dwayne Wade's, and, of course, Chris Bosh. Huge supporter of his.
Yeah. So out of these 8 teams, in no particular order, to make the East, who would you pick?
So 8 teams. So the teams that will make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Just early predictions. Just throwing them all out there. No particular order. I am putting the Toronto Raptors, Cleveland Cavaliers, of course. What's that?
Cavaliers?
Yes, the Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Milwaukee Bucks are going to make the playoffs. The Bulls will make the playoffs. I think the Celtics have the potential to make the playoffs. There's 5.
What about Indiana?
Hmm.
They honestly just lost Roy Hibbert, who is awful, and they gained a nice rookie, and they signed Monte Ellis.
They could still make it, but wait, okay. So I've got the 5 there. Heat are going to make the playoffs. The Wizards will make the playoffs, and one more. I'm putting it between the Hawks and Pacers for that 8th spot. Not necessarily the 8th position, but just in my 8 teams. I'm gonna go. Even though Pacers picked up Ellis, I'm going with Atlanta Hawks. But the thing is, Atlanta lost DeMarre Carroll, who was an important piece to that starting 5.
But I just think they have too good of a system over there in Atlanta where they won't exactly miss him too much.
They'll be able to make it work. Fair enough. Fair enough. So those are my 8 teams.
Yeah, for me, it's Cleveland, Chicago, Toronto. That's 3. I say Boston's 4. Washington 5. Miami is 6. Atlanta is gonna squeak in there, and I got one more. Oh, Milwaukee.
There you go. So essentially the same. Yeah.
Was it? Almost.
Almost. Yeah.
What was the difference there?
Did you have Washington in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had Washington, Miami, Atlanta, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Chicago, Toronto, and Boston.
I think that was the exact same.
That was the exact same. All right. Okay. Full court press.
Agreeing with each other on this one.
Full court press. We're on the same page. Right on, man.
On the same page.
All right. Let's see if we could mix it up with the Western Conference. Let's see how things are looking there.
West is a difficulter.
A difficulter. I like this setting we have going on. Let's go division and then overall conference. It's great.
Yeah. Well, Oklahoma City's gonna have a fully healthy Durant. So
exactly.
And their division is just wipe after that. Just look at that: Denver, Portland, Utah, Minnesota. I think Utah is going to be the second best team in that division. But other than that, that division is just looking horrid right now.
Yeah, I'm saying for the Northwest Division, it's going to be OKC. Then, wow. You're right. That's a toughie. OKC, I will go with Utah. I'm putting the Timberwolves in at 3rd. Then the Trailblazers, then the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm. And then you look at the Pacific, and it's not that crazy either. It's just...
I'd go Warriors, Clippers, Lakers, Kings, Suns.
Yeah, let's just skip that.
Southwest is...
probably the most difficult division in the NBA. Like, look at those teams. Memphis, New Orleans. New Orleans, they're going to make a big step this year.
I'm looking forward to that. I like the Pelicans.
I could actually see all 5 of those teams make the playoffs.
I do not disagree with that. That's very likely. The Spurs will make the playoffs. The Rockets will make the playoffs with Mr. Harden. Yeah, the Spurs. If the Spurs don't make the playoffs, then we have a very confusing situation on our hands.
Yeah. For the 8 teams that make the playoffs, Oklahoma City. Then you got the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
And then the Clippers. That's 3. And then you got Memphis. They'll make it.
Spurs.
Houston. And San Antonio. How much is that so far?
7.
7.
So I'd go between Mavericks and Pelicans.
Mavericks and Pelicans. Yeah, that's a big one.
I honestly just personal preference. I'd like to see the Mavericks because I love the Dallas Mavericks. I always have been a huge Mavs fan.
Huge fan of Chandler Parsons.
Yeah, I like Chandler Parsons. But of course, Dirk Nowitzki's always been in my top 3 favorite players. So, but I think
they had a pretty bad preseason, 0-7.
Man, honestly, in my mind, preseason doesn't really mean too much.
Yeah, I think I don't know that. Yeah, it's New Orleans, Dallas. It's a toughie. Because I just think Anthony Davis is gonna destroy the NBA this year, and he'll just get them in off of that.
Or I'm thinking the Mavericks might squeak in and the Pelicans finish in 9th. Just come that close to making it, and Anthony Davis does really well and is an MVP contender.
Yeah. Just like Westbrook last year. Did all he could do for the Thunder, and they could only do 9th place.
That's exactly what I was thinking, what I was going to compare it to. Just the OKC Thunder.
Westbrook last year, 11 triple-doubles.
I know. Unbelievable. He was an absolute beast.
Imagine with Durant back, there's no reason that he should not continue this.
Oh, I think he has the potential to. We
He'll
saw what he
still
did
get
last
10
season.
points. Even if he gets like 10 points a game, which is not Westbrook like, because that guy just shoots a lot.
Yeah, he does.
Somehow he still gets over 10 assists and all those rebounds.
Yeah, he manages to pull it off. So, but just looking at like I'm still thinking about Pelicans versus Mavericks. I'm honestly gonna go Dallas.
What about the Clippers? Clippers aren't.
No, we've got Clippers in there.
Yeah, they're kind of iffy. I don't know.
You think the Clippers are iffy? I think the Clippers will make it. Just I don't personally like the Clippers.
Neither.
You've heard my thoughts on Blake Griffin. But that big three, Jordan, Griffin, and Paul, they're good, man. They're good.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
yeah, it's going to be a fun season. It's going to be interesting to look back on our predictions and watch we're completely wrong. We get no teams right.
Oh, well. We're bound to get teams right. It's just
Utah Jazz win the NBA championship.
Led by Rudy Gobert.
Led by your favorite player, Rudy Gobert.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, fantastic.
Utah versus Brooklyn against Bargnani. Those Nets.
Bargnani Gobert. Matchup of the century. Hey, speaking of Bargnani and his MVP caliber skills, let's look at way super early, but just some thoughts on NBA season awards by the end of the year.
Well, speaking of Rudy Gobert, let's start off with most improved player.
There you go. You think he's got a good chance at that?
I think this dude's going to take the next step. He's going to be a phenomenal center for Utah, and I don't know, he could possibly do some magic and the Utah Jazz can make the playoffs, but I don't know. I just think he's going to have a stellar season this year with his blocks and rebounds. He's going to kill it. And I pick him as most improved.
There you go. Right on. I like the way you said that. I pick him as most improved. I'm actually going to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo. I always butcher his last name.
Antetokounmpo?
Yeah, Giannis. I'm going with Giannis from the Milwaukee Bucks. I think he's got some great potential, and the Bucks are going to do really well this year.
Do you think that it'll be good enough for him to make the All-Star team like Jimmy Butler last year?
He may squeak in. I don't know if he's going to be an immediate selection that comes to mind for coaches. But after some thought, I think if he has a good first half of the year, I think he could be a good fit for the All-Star team. He already participated in the All-Star Skills Challenge, so he's got All-Star Weekend experience.
Yeah, maybe we'll see him in Toronto.
Yeah, you never know. That's a big thing. All-Star 2016 coming to Toronto.
In the six that everyone's been calling Toronto. The six. The six dot.
The 416, yep, the 6. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Giannis. I don't think it's too far of a stretch. Neither is Gobert. I think those are two very valid options.
Now, sixth man of the year. I think this is a pretty obvious pick, and he was runners up last year. And I'm just gonna go with Isaiah Thomas. He comes off the bench for the Celtics, and I'm just gonna pick him.
I will agree with you on that. I like Isaiah Thomas, and of course he's got the famous name to live up to. No relation.
What about Jamal Crawford? That guy seems to always be in the running. You never know.
Jamal Crawford is going to go down. Once he retires, he is one of the best sixth men, in recent memory for sure. But I think Isaiah Thomas is a good choice for this one.
And Defensive Player of the Year? We saw Kyrie Leonard win it last year, Joakim Noah the year before, Gasol, even Tyson Chandler won it.
Hey, maybe Andre Iguodala could pick it up.
Iguodala?
Yeah, because you look at he was the NBA Finals MVP this past season.
Yeah, he played really well. Maybe he'll carry it over.
He could carry it over. You know what? That's who I'm going with. I'm going with Andre Iguodala because he's always been a fantastic defender.
Yeah, I'll do Marc Gasol.
Going with Marc Gasol? It's a good choice.
Yeah. He'll win again.
Yeah, shot blocking machine. Good choice.
And now Coach of the Year. Who do you think has got that?
Oh, okay, you want to do Coach of the Year. Jason Kidd. I'm going with Jason Kidd. I think he's going to turn the Bucks around. They did good. They did well last year. I think I like Jason Kidd much better as a Milwaukee Bucks head coach than I do as a Brooklyn Nets head coach.
Yeah.
I think Kidd, one of a future basketball Hall of Famer. But I think Jason Kidd he's got a good chance at winning Coach of the Year with the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they're going to do really well this season.
Yeah, I'm going with Billy Donovan of Oklahoma City Thunder. They're coming back strong with a healthy Durant.
I was thinking that too. That was another option.
He's making his way like Hoiberg. He's coming from NCAA to the NBA, and he's a really good coach. So he's got it. I think the Thunder could possibly finish top 2. They have a really good roster, and yeah, I see Billy Donovan winning it this year.
That's good points. Good points. I think they're gonna they'll make the playoffs this year because KD's back. So
what if they make that next step and they've already been to the finals, but what if they actually do something?
They actually win the NBA championship? You mean?
What if they actually did? That basically means that Durant's staying in Oklahoma City.
Of course, if they win the championship, Durant stays in OKC.
Yeah, that's an interesting subject, actually. Basically, I actually think the only way Durant stays in Oklahoma City is if they win the championship, or I don't know, like even if they don't win, like if they go to the finals, I don't know if he still stays. I think it's like championship or bust.
I was just about to say that. I'm thinking the same thing. For Kevin Durant, because he's been at the team his entire career, and will obviously drafted by the then Sonics, I think it's championship or bust. Because they've gone the distance before, but they haven't. They've gone far, but they haven't gone the full distance before.
And as you're saying, speaking of busts, champions or bust, let's go to the Rookie of the Year, where there's a lot of busts.
I think Rookie of the Year, I'm just gonna. It may be like the obvious choice. It may not be that unique of a choice, but I'm just gonna go with Anthony Towns, Karl Anthony Towns.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a good choice. Yeah.
Because he can dominate, and he's playing. He's playing for the T-Wolves, and the T-Wolves. It's good breeding ground for a young player like him. Like you look at what Andrew Wiggins has been able to do so far. He's been playing really well, and he's growing as a player.
I think Towns is going to have a solid career, an all-star career, but I don't know. In his rookie season, I don't know if he's going to put up better stats than Jahlil Okafor, because basically, Rookie of the Year, it's not about going to the playoffs or anything. It's just about who puts up the best stats.
It really is. It's very much a singles competition just between all the rookies putting up the best numbers.
And Jahlil Okafor, let's be honest, he's playing with a bunch of NBDL talents, and he's just going to put up way too good of stats not to win Rookie of the Year, in my opinion.
That's a good point. I think locked in. I think a third name to throw in there would be D'Angelo Russell.
Basically, the top 3.
Yeah, basically the top 3. So,
wait, what if Norman Powell, the second-round pick of the Raptors, just lights it up as 6th man and just, you never know.
Could you imagine a world? I'm pretty sure it's possible where Norman Powell could win Rookie of the Year and 6th Man of the Year.
If the Raptors somehow got their own version of Ginobili.
That would be amazing. Well, Norman Powell ripped it up in the preseason.
Preseason and Summer League. He was on the All-Summer League team.
Yeah, he's got...
Summer League isn't the best thing, but the fact that he stood out...
Yeah, he's got tons of potential, and I think he's going to do really well in the Raptors system. I'm looking forward to watching Powell play.
And I think DeLon Wright, their first-round pick, I think he's a solid player, but he's just going to be playing behind Joseph and Lowry.
Exactly.
So, and I think by mid-season, Norman Powell, I'm not joking. I think he could possibly be the Raptors' 6th man.
If he works hard enough, and from what I've seen of him, he seems like a guy who does want to put in that work.
He's very dedicated.
He is, unlike a certain someone that you're a big fan of. Speaking of improving,
Oh yeah, we're talking about most improved player, and then we got Terrence Ross. Will he actually do something this year? I don't know.
That is the big question.
Because I don't know. Personally, I see him playing in Asia or Europe in a couple years.
I could see that. I wouldn't mind that. Terrence
I
Ross.
think-
Terrence Ross needs to make a. Terrence Ross needs to make a lot of improvements to fit in with the Raptors. He just doesn't. From what we see, obviously we don't have the inside perspective.
From what I saw in preseason, he played well defensively, but he's still struggling. I don't know, like this. I don't know what goes on in his head. He just needs to figure it out, and this is his contract year where he has to actually do something to earn an NBA contract for the next time he plays.
Yeah, it's big. It's a big one for Terrence Ross. So we're going to be keeping close tabs on T. Ross this NBA season, watching Raptors games for sure.
Like he's got to stop getting his supporters fed up. It's not
Because Terrence Ross has potential. He just needs to utilize that potential.
He just doesn't know how to use it in his head.
Exactly, because he's extremely athletic. He can get a lot done on the court. He just struggles. He just really needs to put in some extra work.
And he's got to stop playing video games.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm thinking bringing in some veteran leadership, like a guy like Louis Scola. Hopefully that helps get pound that dedication into Terrence Ross's head.
Pound that rock.
Yeah, pound that rock. Pound the rock.
Now, on to the MVP. Who you got?
MVP. I want to just say James Harden because I want James Harden to finally win the MVP. But
I don't know.
I don't think he's gonna win it though. I feel like James Harden will never actually win the Most Valuable Player award. Yeah, he's always going to be one of those guys that doesn't. I think he's going to end his career as one of those guys, like one of the best to not have won the MVP award and possibly to not have won an NBA championship.
Like Tracy McGrady. He was doing really well and couldn't crack that MVP.
Exactly. I think MVP. I think Steph Curry is still in the race to do it again next year. Of course, LeBron James is a top contender because he's LeBron and he always is. Yeah. Even Kevin Durant, 100% Kevin Durant is another strong contender.
What about Russell Westbrook?
I was just about to say Russell Westbrook. Yeah.
If he continues this triple double streak,
Russell Westbrook has a chance to win MVP. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's going to go to LeBron James. I think this is going to be one of those years where he just absolutely dominates and his team does really, really well. And there's no choice but to give it to LeBron.
I think it's a fair assumption to make because he's motivated because they lost out in the finals to the Golden State Warriors. So he's got that extra motivation. It's not like LeBron has ever lacked motivation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'm going to go with LeBron James as well. It's a safe bet to make. I'd put money on that.
All right, so we're agreeing on that one.
Right on. That's so that wraps up the season awards.
Right on.
Right on. There's a couple of other goings on in the world of basketball. I was just looking up an article that Glen Rice Jr. I don't know if you saw that Glen Rice Jr. was shot in the leg not too long ago in a restaurant in downtown Atlanta that's owned by T.I.
Really? That I may have heard about that, but it escaped my mind.
He was shot in the leg and then he was charged with reckless conduct and possession of marijuana.
Oh dear.
So there's Glen Rice Jr.
I'm sorry, Glen Rice Sr.
I know. I like Glen Rice Sr. He was good.
I liked him.
He was a good player.
Awesome on the Hornets.
Yeah, man.
And Miami. And he won that championship with the Lakers.
Yeah. And he played for the Rockets as well.
Interesting fact. He was on the Knicks roster last time the Raptors won a playoff series in 2001.
There you go. Fun fact of the episode. Awesome sauce.
A very random fun fact.
Very random Nard Dogg fun fact. And I love it. Well,
Nard Dogg news.
Something that I don't love really scary situation. Lamar Odom, of course. Like you mentioned Glen Rice, former Laker. Lamar Odom, also a former member of the Los Angeles Lakers. Lamar Odom, he seems to be doing well right now, but he was in a coma for a little while.
Yeah, apparently he still needs a kidney transplant. So he's not out of the woods yet.
Well, just fingers crossed for Lamar Odom because he's one of those guys that had huge potential. But not to go off on a rant or anything, we could do a full episode ranting ranting on the Kardashians. But
I don't think we can say smack about his NBA career because it was pretty solid, to be honest.
Lamar Odom, he's solid NBA career. Like I don't know if he's gonna be playing basketball anytime soon.
He's done with basketball. He's just got to focus on living life and, in my opinion, staying away from the Kardashians because everyone who knows me knows my opinion about the Kardashians.
Yeah, I think a lot of people share your thoughts on the Kardashians. But Lamar Odom, you can't really. He very solid career. He's a 2-time NBA champion with the Lakers, and he was the Sixth Man of the Year in 2011. Going back to our season awards, Lamar Odom, former Sixth Man of the Year.
And what really pissed me off about this whole thing is people in the media calling him a reality star. Like, are you kidding me?
No, he is an NBA champion.
Anyone who watches basketball knows who the hell Lamar Odom is.
I agree 100%. He's not a name that you're like, who? Who are you talking about? No, it's Lamar Odom.
This guy was an integral part in the Lakers winning 2 championships.
He was huge. He was a huge part of that roster.
And for them to call him a reality star because he was part of that horrifying satanic family, the Kardashians, is just wrong. Like, I don't understand it, and I never will. I will never understand how people look up to that family. It's disgusting. It's messed up. But that's a whole nother story we can talk about with that family. Anyways, let's just leave it be.
Nard Dogg let out of the cage. I like it. And I agree with you, though. I do not like the Kardashians one little bit. I find them super annoying, and I don't see what they offer to our society. But as you said, that's not what this show's about. So we will move on. Lamar Odom, 2-time NBA champion, 6th Man of the Year. Like the one interesting thing about Lamar Odom, you gave your Glen Rice senior fact. My Lamar Odom fun fact is that he was never named to an All-Star team.
Yeah, he was up there, but he's basically like a Jalen Rose kind of player, not the All-Star caliber, but just always a great role player.
Always, he knew what his job was.
Yeah. Oh well.
Right on. Well, hoping all the best for Lamar Odom.
Yeah. Speedy recovery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Speedy recovery, that's for sure. All right, now bringing it back to our hometown Raptors after covering a little basketball around the world news. What do you any message to the Toronto Raptors looking forward into the season? We've got the season opener coming up in a little bit, in under a week.
I think they improved drastically in defense this summer. And I think that's going to be that's what Dwayne Casey's going to preach all season, just defense, defense, defense. They're not going to be that high-scoring team they were last year with Lou Williams. They got Corey Joseph, who's coming from San Antonio. He's all about defense. You got Luis Scola. You got Norman Powell, who's also an awesome defender. And they draft Delon Wright, who's basically they draft him about his defense.
Yeah, there you go. It's going to be a very defensively minded team.
You look at Bismack Biyombo, he's a block shotting machine.
Yeah, he is. He is a block shotting machine. You look at someone like Luis Scola. Luis Scola is a little bit older these days, but he can still get it done. You saw what he did in the summer.
And Raptors fans worried about Amir Johnson being lost. Scola's a decent replacement. He's an awesome player. He's a great veteran. He gets the job done. He's consistent.
I agree with that 100%. I really like Luis Scola. I think he can still get a lot done, put up some solid numbers, come in and do his job, and teach the younger guys a little bit of discipline and just help them out.
And you know what you're going to expect from DeRozan. He's always a pro. And Kyle Lowry, look at the guy this offseason. He's coming into the 2015-2016 season in the best shape of his life.
Yeah, he's really cut down, and you could see from the changes that he's made. I think that it shows that he was really affected by their playoff showing last year. So,
yeah,
I see some good things for the Raptors this season. I see a lot of improvements with the roster changes they've made.
And you got a hit or miss guy, and Anthony Bennett. If he does well, then the Raptors won huge. If he doesn't, then the Raptors didn't really pay much for him, and it's just a 1-year contract. So there you go, that guy.
Exactly, a little Canadian hometown flavor with Anthony Davis as well as Corey Joseph. Corey Joseph, I think, is going to be that's a better investment than Anthony Davis, but
we haven't even mentioned Valanciunas, who could take the next step this year and possibly make the All-Star team.
Yeah, it's very possible, and I bet you anything. I bet you anything. Valanciunas put in a lot of work over the summer.
There's talk of him playing, getting those fourth quarter minutes like he was in last year.
Yes, yeah.
I think he could possibly. Don't be surprised if he gets double-doubles on a regular basis this year.
I really hope so. I hope he does well. And I think he has the potential to put up some big numbers. A lot of the guys do.
And as I already said about Norman Powell, he can be a huge surprise to a lot of NBA fans and especially Raptors fans who don't really know much about the guy.
I think he's going to be the hidden gem, the nice little pleasant surprise that Toronto Raptors fans get to see.
And DeLon Wright, we know his brother Deron Wright played in the NBA for 10 years, so he's basically already NBA ready, and he's like the same age as Terrence Ross. So
yeah,
there you go.
He's got tons of potential, and especially with those older guys, the older guys are going to be a good influence on him. I think
he's going to fit in, and I've already said this in basically every single episode of Full Court Press. The only question mark on the Raptors is Terrence Ross.
Exactly. That is really the only question mark because you can tell what everybody else needs to do and you can see that they know what they need to do. So
this guy just needs to prove me wrong, especially. I'm basically his biggest, I don't know, I guess you could call me the biggest hater. He needs to show up. Just use his head. This is going to be his 4th NBA season. He needs to figure it out.
Yeah, big time. And as we were saying earlier, he has the potential to do well. So
he's coming off the bench now. He's going to play his natural position as shooting guard. And if he does not succeed, I don't know what to say about the guy. Personally, I've already given up on him, but he needs to prove me wrong.
And that's, as you said, that's the biggest question when it comes to the Raptors. Well, one of the biggest questions when it comes to the Raptors is, will Terrence Ross prove the Nard Dogg wrong?
And will James Johnson get some minutes?
Get some well-deserved minutes and bring in that defensive power that he can bring to the table.
Indeed.
Right on, man. I think we've got a lot of things to look forward to as far as the Toronto Raptors season is concerned, and so much to look forward to as far as the entire NBA season is concerned. It's going to be a follow-up to last year's season, which saw the rise of the Golden State Warriors, which was something absolutely amazing. Yeah,
one of my favorite NBA seasons I've ever watched.
It was fantastic, and I think they're going to get better and better as the years go on. Covered everything we wanted to talk about for this episode of Full Court Press.
Yeah, there's only so much you can talk about. We can leave it for the next episode.
On to the next one.
When there will be plenty of more basketball to talk about.
Yep, for sure. Always plenty to talk about in the world of basketball. So, any final thoughts?
We the North.
There you go. We the North. Live it, love it, go play basketball. Keep the basketball movement alive and strong and well, as always. Nard Dogg.
Let's come together, as they were saying with the Blue Jays, and let's rally on the Raptors. There's still a TFC. They got their playoff game coming up this week. But we got to support our Toronto teams.
Yeah, got to keep the Toronto sports franchises alive and strong, especially at something like... Yeah, got to keep the Toronto franchises, got to keep that support going, especially teams like the TFC... Well, especially teams like the Raptors and the Blue Jays, because they're the only Canadian teams in their pro leagues, which is a little ridiculous, but, you know, being from the GTA ourselves, it's kind of a nice sense of... We have that sense of pride, at least I do, knowing that the only Canadian basketball team in the NBA is the Toronto Raptors, and MLB, the Toronto Blue Jays. Amazing season for the Blue Jays. It sucks to not see them going to the World Series, but they can keep their heads up because this is the best season for the Toronto Blue Jays in 22 years. So just hats off to the Blue Jays. Before we wrap things up, big shout out to the Jays.
Took them 22 years. That's crazy.
They made it exciting to watch Toronto Blue... I've always been a Jays fan, but they made it really exciting to watch Blue Jays baseball again.
Yeah, it was just a thrilling past 3-4 months to watch that team.
It was unbelievable, and we are never, ever going to forget Mr. Bautista's epic bat flip. The best bat flip I have ever seen.
That'll never be topped.
Never.
Such a surreal moment that was.
All right, before we start rambling on and on and on, Nard Dogg, where can people ramble on with you on the social medias?
Yeah, you can find the Nard Dogg at David Bernardi 7 on the Twitterverse.
Excellent, on the Twitter. And you can find me on the Twitter at Justin Goulet 21. Give us a follow, give us a shout. If you have any questions about basketball, ponder with us. Ask us those questions. And have a time. We will give you a shout out right here on Full Court Press. If you ask for a shout out, we will do it. We're not against that. We do not discriminate. Alrighty, as always, thank you oh so much for tuning in to another edition of Full Court Press. I'm Justin Raindrops Goulet.
And I'm the Nard Dogg, David Bernardi.
Right on, Nard Dogg. Full Court Press Nation, we will catch you next time.
Cheers.
You've just been hit with Full Court Press. Courtesy of the men, the myths, the legends, Nard Dogg and Raindrops Goulet.